There will be a time when a vendor that you haven't done business with in the past will request from you a deposit before they create their product or sell you a item. And what we're going to do is show you how to set the system up to handle these vendor prepaids and protect ourselves from overpaying if the vendor sends an invoice and doesn't delete or remove the prepaid off their invoice. So there's several things that need to be done on a one-time only basis, and the first thing is to add an account for prepaids. So going to our accounting, going to our chart of accounts, you'll see I've created a vendor prepaid account. The next step is to go into my maintenance and departments and create a category called prepaid vendor deposits. I'm going to edit this, and I've got zeros in all these fields because we're never selling this. This is nothing more than a vehicle for us to reduce our purchase order and our accounts payable. So let's go into our general ledger settings, and in here we have our prepaid account number. You don't need it in these first two fields, but I put it there even though they're not being used just to make sure all my blank fields have a value. This is the important one here, the inventory account, and that is my vendor prepaid. So now that I've got that done, we've got to create an item in inventory. So we'll go to Transactions, Inventory, and I've created a prepaid vendor deposit account. And as you can see, my category is prepaid vendor deposit. Now on the detail screen, I don't have any prices or costs because they are not going to be in use. I'm picking my company as my vendor, and under options I have nothing checked except item is active. So I'm not tracking stock or any of that stuff, and as you can see it has an NA for quantity available in stock is not applicable. So after I've got that completed, I go ahead and close. My next step is to go into my pending sales orders, and here's a sales order for Dan's Seafood. I'm going to say create my purchase order, and you can either drop ship it or not drop ship and have it come into our building to be shipped with other product. So convert to purchase order. Here are all the items that are on that particular sales order. So I'm going to say tag all and create POs. Now, once I've completed that, I'm going to close my sales order screen and go over to my purchasing module under Create Receive POs, and here are the items that are on that particular sales order, and Jade Range is the one that's asking for a deposit. So I'm going to go ahead and edit my Jade Range. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, with the little arrow key to make this skew, I'm going to put PPO. And I'm going to put a -1. And I'm going to put $5,000 on this purchase order. So that's a -5,000, which reduces my cost from the $13,000 to the $8,000. I'm going to go ahead now and say I want to process this, and process now. If I print my PO and preview it, you'll see this purchase order has the negative prepaid deposit to reduce the amount of the purchase order. Okay, now that we've done that, we're going to cut a check to the vendor. So we go over to our accounting system, and you have the option. You can just do a check from the checkbook, or if you're going to cut the check later in the day, you can put it in payables, or even if you're going to do it the following day. So we go into accounting, we go into AP processing, and in the unposted, we say we want to insert an invoice. And the question is, who's the invoice for? It's going to be Jade Range. Here's my vendor ID. It's asking for an invoice number. We could create one called PP and then the PO number. I'm going to have to put a single dash. Okay, that's the invoice number. My purchase order is number 9000. And then down here below, it knows it's going to go to payables, but here I'm going to say it's a Jade prepaid. For PO 9000. I like to have a lot of references back to why I'm paying this company a $5,000 deposit. And here, under my GL account, this is where I'm going to put that prepaid account number. And that number, I can either drill down and find it under my liabilities as a prepaid. And there is my expense. So now that I've got this payable detail here, I can click OK. If I'm going to want to cut a check later in the day or right away, all I do is click the little box here that says we want to process this and click Post Approved. So now it's at Post Approved. Let's go to the Posted, and here's my Jade Range. Now I want to post this and cut a check, so I'm going to say I want to pay this and process paid. I'm not going to bother printing remittance advices. So I have completed the accounts payable section, and now I'm going to go to my checkbook, and in my checkbook here is a Jade Range $5,000 payment. So in my print checks, I have the $5,000 payment that's scheduled to be cutting checks for me. So let's go and now receive that purchase order. And we go into Create Receive PO. Here's the Jade Range we're expecting in. You'll notice the amount is now $84.68. I am going to select Receive, put my vendor's actual invoice number in, and click my Receive All. So everything I ordered I did receive, and now I'm going to receive now. Okay, so I have nothing left in my received POs for Jade. Now, I've done my check, received my product. Let's go over to accounting and post-transactions. Here are our transactions. The first one we made was where we had a prepaid, and we went to accounts payable and vendor prepaids. Then we went from accounts payable to our checking account, and then we received our stock. So I'm going to say tag all, and we're going to post to the general ledger. Okay, so now that we've completed that, let's take a look at account inquiry. And we're going to look at that account, vendor prepaids. Now, the first two are ones I had done earlier. This is the ones we just did. It is a debit to this account for the prepaid and a credit for this account for the prepaid. So our net effect is we have zero. Debits equal credits, and they wash each other out. Let's go over now to our inventory. And we're going to look at that unit that we put a $5,000 deposit against on the purchase order. So let's go to Stock Manager, and we see that we did bring one in for the full dollar amount of $13,000. Again, this one was an earlier one that I ran through, so this is the second one that we have on hand at the full dollar amount. So when we sell it, that will be our cost of goods sold. So that's the process that's used to keep track of these types of prepaids. Now, we've modified a report in an open payables for each of the accounts payable invoices to note that there was a prepaid deposit made on the account, and we give it the check number and the dollar amount of the prepaid deposit. This is just there for a reference, or if you have to explain why you're only paying $8,000 instead of the full $13,000. I hope this was informative, and if you have any questions on setting this up or using this process, please feel free to call Dan Spakowski at New Vision, and we'll be more than glad to assist you. Thank you.